So I think it's time for an update on where I've been up to with my work. I had done some other videos, but unfortunately I've got a new phone which I'm having some difficulties getting everything sent over to the laptop so I can upload it to YouTube because of the way my account's connected. So I'm back on my old phone now, for this video at least. And I thought I'd just re-record everything in terms of this update and just run you through where I'm up to, because I've changed quite a few things since I did my other videos that I've not been able to upload. So let's start off with how I actually began with the drums. What this is these are the drum sounds that I came up with on the monologue. So I've gone through them and I've layered them, and then I've started putting them with other sort of clicks, maybe hi-hat sounds and things that I've got in sample packs to go together, until I get the sort of sound I want. I've then used a send to send it to some reverb. There it is with the bass in. This is the snare that I've made. I've also layered that with another snare which I haven't made. Just had some nice top end that I wanted. These have all been layered a few times already, and what I've done is I've sort of bounced it down, and the reason I've put them on the timeline rather than inside a drum rack and sequenced it with MIDI is just because it's an easier way of me sort of layering up the sounds, and then I can just basically bounce these two tracks down into one and it'll save whatever drum sound I'm making. So that's the reason it's like that. These two are separate still, just because I want it in some places and not in others. This hi-hat is just an 808 kit built into Ableton. So I've done some interesting sort of velocities on that. That does change at some parts, so it's not doing the sort of off-kilter time. We've got So this is actually just a drum and bass beat. It's a break that I've taken from a sample pack, and what I've done is I've whacked a load of sidechain compressors on it, so when everything's in, you just sort of get the little in-between spaces with some of the hi-hats and some of the more sort of cymbally stuff, and some of the rolls off the snare as well, so some of that sort of built into the drum beat that already exists there. Below that, this was like a little house beat, but I've just chopped out all the bits I wanted. So we're looking here in the purple zone. This is just all the bits that I chopped out and rearranged. Pretty much got it how I wanted it there. And below that we have just some clicks and pops and noises and things. I think this was white noise that I generated using a TAL Noisemaker. And then what I'd done is I'd recorded a 10-minute section of noise and stretched it throughout the entire track and modulated the cutoff of an automated filter. And then what I've done is I've just dragged it down into audio. It's something called freeze function on Ableton. You can just drag straight down from a frozen MIDI clip and it'll turn things into audio. So that is just it's just white noise with the modulation on the filter, low pass filter. Bit squelchy with the resonance. Here we've got some more sort of crazy. This would have been a house beat as well, but as you can see I've sort of chopped this very finely as well into what sounds a bit manic on its own, but it's more of a fitting beat for drum and bass. And in between we've just got some sort of basic one-off sounds, like a reverse tom, I think that is. That's a reverse tom with a reverb, forwards tom with a reverb, and some other bits and bobs. So under that we're moving on to some of the bass sounds now. These are So that is from the monologue. If you remember when I made all the presets ready to use for a track. So this one was just a sub. What I've done is I've added a distortion. The reason I've done that is to try and bring it into the audible frequency range for people whose speakers can't go down so low. When it's in the mix you can't hear the sort of overdriven sound. It still sounds like a sub, but I'm just hoping it'll make it clear and you'll be able to hear it on smaller systems. Here's where the fun started on this track here. So this one in the purple, just here all chopped up, this was done in Europa inside Reason. I started with a preset, and what I've done is I've sort of changed the grittiness of the sound with some distortions and some changing the tempo of the LFO, and then I've reprogrammed the LFO with some sort of complex pattern, and then I've recorded a sequence of that into Ableton, chopped it up so that it makes the sounds I want. So we get little, I'll choose a good bit for you, little things like that, so sort of FM and complex sort of sounds. There's a momentary break in here. This is literally a sample that I've done nothing to at all. This is just from a sample pack, a jungle sample pack that I've got. So I've just thrown that in about 2 minutes ago just to fill that space. It might change, but it's there for now. Then there's some very sort of subtle sounds going on as well. So we've got a grand piano at the beginning, just here. I don't even think you're going to be able to hear it. Where is that? Ah, here it is. Beginning, sorry. So this is just to fill it out in the midsection, sort of a breakdown. It's just a standard grand piano sound. All I've done is I've put a delay on it, and I've changed the frequency band of the sort of reflections. Here is where we start getting a bit sort of more in depth. Now this started as just a string section like this. Then what I decided to do was add some sort of brass sounds as well, and I wanted to add some bass into it, but I didn't want it to be as bassy as the synth part with the bass. So it's just got some light sort of brass and tuba in there, and there's a double bit, yeah, I think it's a double bass or a cello. So all together, it just sounds a little bit bigger. And there's also this arpeggio, which I've just remembered. So all of this is, let's see if I can show you, modulated automatically. There's quite a lot of modulation in there already with things like filters and gates. I've forgotten how to solo this now. There we go. Okay. There's still MIDI channels there because that's causing me trouble now. There's already MIDI channels there. They're not actually doing anything. They're just going out to the synth, which is currently turned off. So here we've got a more undiluted idea of what I've done with the noise. So this is literally a sample I made ages ago, just from Tal Noisemaker. It is 10 minutes of noise, and I just whack it on the entire track. I've chopped bits out just for where I want it. But if I show you the automation on this, where are we? So it's a band pass filter, and it just brings it in nicely. It helps build things up or bring things down, and I pretty much use this on most of my productions to give sort of a sense of space. It's got a big reverb on it, it's got a delay on it, and they're all being sent to the sends as well. So it's sort of got two reverbs on, one to thicken it up and one to match it with the sort of room space of all of the other instruments. I think that's most of it for now. There will be more, but I will show you how it's all sort of come together in sections now. So if we go back to the beat, you'll remember I'd sort of chopped a few bits and bobs up there. That's how this sounds. And then we've got a little bit here which is quite different. Let's get this loop switched off. So that's more sort of the original beat I built before I started bringing in other samples as well. Nice for the breakdown, but I just want it to be a little bit more, let's say hectic, but that's not really what I mean. A little bit more intense for the drop anyway. Again, you can hear there's a filter bringing it in and out on the this is the grouped drum track that you can hear that on. Right, let's just play you the whole track for now and see sort of where we're up to. So just remembering a few interesting pointers for how I've made this. Something I thought would be interesting to bring up was what I've done with the snare during this sort of breakdown. So if we solo the snare, which is here, you'll hear it starts with a small amount of reverb, and the reverb is automated. So as it grows, it sort of flattens out. So that's something that's quite sort of unusual. I don't hear that used as an effect much, especially not on drums, but I thought I'd give it a try on there. The other thing is, I don't think I showed you the main bass sounds for these parts. Where are we? Group 33. So this you'll remember from the monologue. Slightly different, of course. It's not a distortion that's been added afterwards. I've just turned up the drive on the actual monologue itself. Not entirely sure if that's a drive on the filter or on the actual oscillators themselves, or on the sort of overall audio. I would guess it's sort of an overall thing because it's not in the filter section. It's below the master volume knob, so it probably is just a drive pushing the audio level up internally before sending it out. Here are two layered subs, so a higher octave and a lower. Sidechain compressed on here to the kick. The lower. Probably unlikely that you can hear that. And let's just show you if I can find it on here. This, that's not the right one. I'll try and find. So this on here is the modulation for the sort of squelchy bass sound. So when you play a section like that, this is how you get that sort of sound. There's also some FM feedback going on in the modifier. There's lots of bits and bobs going on. Most of it is just basic subtractive synthesis. There's some unison stuff going on as well on some of the sounds. But it's pretty simple in terms of the synthesis. It's just making some very sort of extreme and specific filter modulation choices. But that's that for now. I will continue to work on this. Not entirely sure on whether it's going to have vocals running over it or not. But there's plenty more to do in terms of filling out the frequency spectrum, getting everything sounding nice and tight, and then obviously doing a mix on this to get it sounding how I want before improving on my mastering skills and having a go at mastering it myself.